When I place the order for a new pair of shoes, the cobbler will ask me when exactly I want them. My answer would be as soon as you conveniently can. Then he would say, okay, I'll give you the shoes 14 days from tomorrow. Tomorrow, fortnight, 2 weeks. Or if he were his elder brother, he would say, okay, I'll let you know after consulting my brother. Then I would murmur, hearing this, I would tell him, thank you so much. Good morning, Mr. Gessler. Good morning. He would reply, still looking at the letter in his hand. As I moved to the door, I would hear the sound of his bad slippers restoring him, going back. So when I entered the shop, he came from above. After he speaks to me, he goes back. So I can understand that he is going back to the room when I hear the sound of his bad slippers. Restoring him up the stairs, he goes upstairs to dream about his boots, to his dream world of boots. But if it was some new kind of footgear that he had not yet made me, then indeed he would observe ceremony. What is ceremony here? Divesting me of my boot and holding it long in his hand, looking at it with eyes at once critical and loving, as if recalling the glow with which he had created it, and rebuking the way in which one had disorganized this masterpiece. If I place order for the normal shoes, he wouldn't ask me so many questions because he would know what I wanted. But if I wanted some new kind of foot gear shoes here that he had not yet made me, then indeed he would observe a ceremony, observe a ritual, or he would do something ritualistic. What's that? He would ask me to remove my boot, divest me of my boot, he would take the boot off my foot and hold it in his hand for a long time, looking at it with eyes at once critical and loving. So if I place order for a new pair of shoes, a different kind of shoes, he would ask me to give him my boot and he would hold it in his hand for a long time, look at it with eyes at once critical, at once loving as well. As if remembering the glow, shine with which he had created. So he would look at the shoe critically because he would think of the glow with which he had created it. Of course, now at present, the glow is gone. So he would be critical. And he would love it because it was made by him. And rebuking, criticizing, scolding the way in which one had disorganized his masterpiece. What's a masterpiece here? The shoes made by him. So he would criticize me, he would scold me, he would rebuke me for spoiling his masterpiece. So when he gave me the pair of shoes, that was indeed a masterpiece that was perfect. But after using it for a long time carelessly, that has been disorganized. So when he finds it highly disorganized, he would get angry and he would scold me for not maintaining it well. Then place my foot on a piece of paper. He would ask me to rest my foot on a paper. He would 2 or 3 times tickle the outer edges with a pencil and pass his nervous fingers over my toes. If I wanted a new pair of shoes, a different kind of shoes which he had never made, he would take the measurement. How would he take the measurement? He would ask me to place my foot on a piece of paper. Then he would take a pencil and he would draw the sketch. He would 2 or 3 times tickle the outer edges of my foot with a pencil and pass his nervous fingers over my toes. He would feel my toes, feeling himself into the heart of my requirements. So he would draw the sketch of my foot. Besides, he would pass his fingers over my toes to feel what actually I required. I cannot forget the day on which I had occasion to say to him, Mr. Gessler, the last pair of town walking boots creaked, I still remember the day on which I had the occasion to say to him, Mr. Gessler, sorry, the last pair of town walking boots that you gave me creaked or developed some cracks. So I gave him a complaint about the shoes which he had made for me. He looked at me, hearing the complaint. He looked at me for a time without replying, as if expecting me to withdraw or qualify the statement, then said, It shouldn't have creaked. He looked at me, hearing my complaint. He stared at me for a time without saying anything, as if he wanted me to take back my statement or change or modify my statement. Then he said, after some time staring at me, after some time he told me, No, it shouldn't have creaked. It shouldn't have creaked. No, my shoes can never creak. Then I told him, sorry, it did. My shoe did creak, did develop cracks. I'm sorry. I'm afraid here. I'm sorry to say that my shoes creaked. Then he said, the cobbler said, Oh, you got them wet before they found themselves. So he said, You must have got your shoes wet. That's the reason why your shoes creaked. Then I told you, No, I never got it wet. I never got my shoes wet. Then he lowered his eyes as if hunting for memory of those boots. Then he started looking down as if he was trying to think of the shoes that he made me, that he gave me long, long ago. And seeing his condition, I felt sorry. I had mentioned this grave thing, serious thing. So when I saw him looking down, thinking about something very seriously, brooding over something very seriously, I felt sorry that I had mentioned this grave thing, serious thing, that my shoes creaked. After some time, he said, Okay, send them back. You send your shoes back, he said. I will look at them. Okay, you give me your shoes back. I'll just have a look at the shoes which creaked. A feeling of pity, compassion for my creaking boots surged up in me. So at that time, a feeling of pity for my creaking, cracked boots came up in me so well I could imagine the sort of long curiosity or regard with the which he would bend on them. So I could also imagine the sort of a long curiosity or regard, concern which he would bend on those shoes. Then he said, Some boots, he said slowly, are bad from birth. So he tries to justify what he did by saying that if the shoes creaked, he was not responsible for that. Some shoes, some boots are bad from birth. That is the reason that must have creaked. If I can do nothing with them, I take them off your bill. And he was generous enough to tell me that, look, if your shoes cannot be repaired, mended, okay, I'll pay you back the money that I charged. I take them off your bill. I'll return the money to you. Only once, I went absent-mindedly into his shop in a pair of boots bought in an emergency at some large firm's company shop. Once it so happened that I walked into his shop absent-mindedly wearing a pair of boots which I bought in an emergency at some other shop, at some other large shop firms. He took my order without showing me any leather, and I could feel his eyes penetrating, piercing the inferior integument of my foot. Integument here, outer layer of my foot. At last he said, So I wanted a new pair of shoes, But when I went to place order, I was wearing a pair of shoes which I bought in an emergency at some other shop, big shop. He kept seeing my news shoes. He kept on looking at them for a long time. At last he said, "Those are not my boots." So immediately he understood that he was wearing boots made by someone else. That tone was not one of anger when he said it was not, he was not angry when he said this. He was not even sad nor sorrow, not even of contempt, hatred, but there was in something quiet that froze the blood. So when the cobbler made the statement, "These are not my boots," he was not angry, he was not sad, he was not even contemptuous, but in his voice, I could feel a sense of pain that froze my blood. I felt stunned hearing the tone of his statement. He put his hand down, pressed a finger on the place where the left boot, endeavoring, trying to be fashionable, was not quite comfortable. Then, after making this statement, he put his hand down and pressed a finger on the place where the left boot, trying to be fashionable, was not very comfortable for me. So in my left boot, there was an area that was not quite comfortable. So he pressed his finger exactly on the spot and said, "Oh, it hurts you here." So he could understand, being an expert in making shoes, he could understand where actually that shoe hurt me. And he said, "It hurts you there, doesn't it?" He said. Then he said, "Those big firms here, shops, big firms, not worms, those big firms have no self-respect. Trash, rubbish. It is actually trash, TRASH. It hurts you here, doesn't it? I know those big shops have no self respect, they sell trash." So, indirectly, he is telling the writer that what he's wearing is trash. Those big shops have no self respect, they sell anything, they sell trash, they sell bad things. And then, as if something had given away within him, he spoke long and bitterly. And then, as if something had given way within him, he spoke long and angrily, sadly. It was the only time I ever heard him discuss the conditions and the difficulties, hardships of trade. So after saying that it hurts you here, those big firms have no respect. They deal in trash, or they sell trash, charging high amount of money. Then he told me something about his hardships, the hardships that he faced in his trade. He says, "They get it all." Say, "Look at the shops. They get all business. They get it all," he said. "They get it by advertisement." So big shops, big companies, big firms get the business by advertising, not by work. They don't sell quality products, but by giving very good advertisement, they get a lot of business. They take it away from us. We lose our business, though we do quality work. I sell quality shoes, but still, those big firms, big companies win away, take away customers from us who love our boots. In fact, I love the boots which I make. The companies don't do that. It goes to this. Presently, I have no work. So look at what has happened to me. We have no work now because the business is taken away by big companies. Every year it gets less and less. The business is less and less for us. You will see. And looking at his lined face, I saw things I had never noticed before. Bitter things, sad things, bitter struggle, and what a lot of grey hair there seemed suddenly in his red beard. So I understood that he was struggling a lot to maintain his business. And I had noticed bitter things and bitter struggle. And I also noticed a lot of gray hair appearing in his red beard suddenly, which clearly shows that he's struggling so much. As best as I could, I explained the circumstances of the purchase of those ill omened, suggesting evil boots. Then I tried my best to convince him why I bought those shoes from those shops. But his face and voice made so deep impression that during the next few minutes, I ordered many pairs. So seeing his sad face, hearing his sad voice, hearing his story of struggle, I ordered many pairs of shoes.